Welcome back, everybody. We're live, the first time in like 2 months, so thank you for joining. Hopefully the audio and video is okay. I know I'm broadcasting tonight in black and white. I'll let you know why in just a moment. I did something to my face. Man, it looks bad. Anyway, we'll talk about that in just a bit, but welcome everybody. It's great to be back online doing this. I didn't get really a chance to do any live streaming while I was away. The setup's different. It's just not really viable, so thanks to everyone who commented on the last Guitar Search Saturday video at the Guitar Attic. It's actually where I bought my G&L and also bought a Rowin from there the same year. So yeah, he's got a lot of great guitars. No Lefties on that particular visit, but you go there 2 weeks later and he'll have some. So it's one of the cool things about that shop. So thank you. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I appreciate it. All right, let's get over to the comments. What I'm going to do is move this over so I don't break my neck. It's always the first step in a good live stream. It's not to keep doing this. What? All right, so Raphael earlier said, hey Shane, yesterday for the first time I went to a jam session after starting open mic nights a couple of months ago. What a different muscle it is. I tried to remember your advice of less is more. Absolutely, and you sound more experienced the less you play. The people who don't phrase generally sound like noodlers, so well done. And congratulations for getting out there and playing live. I'm always, encouraging folks to get out there and do it. It's definitely, it makes you a better player. No questions about it. You're listening differently. All of a sudden you're paying attention to things you weren't aware of, if you jam into a CD, and it's always different, which catches a lot of people up. Some people learn a solo to a song, then when they get to a jam night, they struggle to kind of play it on time because the tempo of the song's different. So it really makes you play better. So thank you so much. And Raphael says, playing with a band definitely requires different skills to playing and singing solo, but when you get locked in, man, it's magical. And those are the moments that makes it all worthwhile. That's why we play music. We don't play music just to buy stuff. Play music to get out there and play with other people, because that's where the magic happens. I did the same thing. When I got back, I hadn't played live for 7 weeks. I was rusty as, but I thought, you know what? The only thing that I can do now is just keep it simple and phrase. And people are like, man, you're playing real tasty. I'm like, I'm just keeping it simple, and that works. But I mean, look at B.B. King, right? The king of the phrasing. Not that I'm anywhere near like that, but just as an example. So that's great, man. It's listen to as much live playing of your favorite artists that you can. Eric Clapton, 24 Nights was a huge inspiration for me. I mean, there's a million great blues albums, but the live stuff really digs into the extended guitar solos and also dynamics that you don't hear on albums a lot of the time. So that's a really great one for teaching you like touch and feel and less is more and all that kind of stuff. All right, welcome everybody. We got Scott. He says, hi Shane, looking forward to the show. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining in. It's awesome to see your little avatar there pop up. Appreciate it. All right. So if you're wondering why we're broadcasting in black and white, so I bought this face scrub stuff. It's like a charcoal. And I thought, all right, this looks pretty good. So I put it on, washed my face. It like took skin off my face, like all throughout here is the worst red you've ever seen in your life. And the only way I could cover it up was to go black and white. And it actually looks kind of cool. So we're rocking the black and white tonight due to my head and face just being like, it looks red raw. So yeah, go easy on that stuff if you think about buying it. All right, we got Nick as well. Welcome, mate. How you doing? Andy from Tassie, welcome. All right, Cup of Noodles from Santa Barbara, California. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining in. John, how you doing? Hey there, just got the notification. Did I miss much? I just started right at 9 o'clock, or right after. I started the stream at 9, hit the switcher over, maybe 30 seconds after that. So I've just been going a couple of minutes. We're still doing shout-outs here. Quicksilver just asked, why is it black and white? Just scroll back 10 seconds if you missed it. Yeah, Raphael says, oh, that's awful. Get some healing cream for that. I have. Yeah, I've got it on, and man, it stung. So, it's brutal. It's like one of the worst things that can happen anytime you're doing this kind of stuff where you're in front of the camera or whatever. You just like it's awful. Maybe I'll scare everybody at the end. I'll put it back to color mode. I'll save that till the end so we don't scare off if there's any kids watching. Anyone with that gets sick easily. All right, we got HL Cotton. He's from greetings. Says greetings from North Carolina, Shane. Absolute pleasure to watch your live streams and reviews. Hey, thank you so much, mate. I appreciate that. I know I haven't been doing a whole lot of live streams the last few months. I was getting prepared to go overseas, and that whole process, organizing where we were going, where we were filming, organizing logistics. I mean, Rhiannon helped heaps with that, which was awesome too, but it was just so much to organize. And getting all the videos ahead of time scheduled on the channel before I went away, which was, a big thanks to Ben for helping out, because I just didn't have enough. I just didn't have enough mojo to do everything on my own. So it was a huge help with his right-handed videos. I know I just dropped him into the deep end, and I appreciate him going in head first, or whatever you want to call it. Like he had I said, we don't even really have time to do an introduction. Let's just get straight into it. And he was great. He's a great player. He does all those videos are done in one take, except for maybe one. He'll do like 2 takes on a solo. He's an unbelievable player, really tasty player, and a nice guy. So we might do a live stream together or something at some point like this and introduce him a little bit more, because I just threw him in. So thanks everyone for the feedback as well, and supporting him too. We've got is it Brain? It's not Brian, right? I'm reading that right. He says, I like your show, very honest and great music. Cheers from WA. Hey, thank you so much. Welcome. I think you've probably got warmer weather than we've got over there at the moment, so I'm a little jealous. HL Cotton says, hey Shane, can I contact you for personal counsel on the purchase of an American original and some details? You can. If you want to just email me, it's intheblues@outlook.com. Just don't post that, in the chat anywhere. Or you can join up on Patreon or whatever as well. You can send me a message on there. All right, we've got Pete Wilson. He says, hi from Scotland. Been enjoying the videos. Thank you so much. So I've gotten to the point with my content that I'll now start filming again in the next week or so here. I've got some acoustic stuff coming up, something different again, which is interesting. We'll see how we go. We've also got more electric guitar stuff, amps, not amps, sorry. We've got guitars and also some pedals as well. No amps at the moment, but I've got heaps of stuff. There's probably 25 more videos shot overseas that I need to release. So, it's going to be, I think coming up to this, over the next few weeks, it'll start to be a mix of both. And then the Guitar Search Saturdays will be coming out every other weekend, all being well. Those are huge projects to edit. They really are. And I want to try and keep them up to a standard that I know is like enjoyable. Man, I tell you what, those guitar shops we went to in Florida, some of them are so good. One of them, actually there's a few. They're all good. They're all good in their own unique way. And that's one of the cool things about going to these, like, what they call the mom and pop shops. Even though, like, some of them are kind of big. They're like independently owned. It's, on the most part, it's pretty great. We didn't do any like Guitar Center stuff or anything. It's all just really unique and cool stuff. So I hope you like the series. And a lot of people have asked me as well, how come you don't do this for Australian shops? I've done probably 25 or 27 Australian stores. So check out the playlist. Just type in Guitar Search Saturdays playlist and you'll see them all. So yeah, they go back quite a number of years now. Raphael says, Ben is a great player and Guy would really like to see him on a stream if possible. Yeah, we'll work something out pretty soon coming up. The room here is a mess. It's so not what I'm used to right now. When I got back, I sort of set up the cameras and this became like the room just to throw everything in that's turned up, and I need to start getting through it. So anyway, yeah, I'll get him on at some point coming up very soon. We've got Andrew from Poole in England. How you doing? Hello. As Steve from Boston would say. All right, I'd like to see you review an Ormsby guitar. They're a WA guitar builder, I think. Ormsby, I've heard about them. I've never reviewed one. it's weird. I think Little Crow Guitars might be the only Australian. Oh, actually, there's two. There's Little Crow Guitars that have asked me to review stuff, and there was another local guy that I reviewed one of his Tally style electrics, and it was unreal. But with that aside, I just don't often get emails from them. I don't really chase companies, so but I may start doing that just to mix things up because I just don't have to much anymore. But I'd like to sort of diversify the brands a little bit more. And this is why I went to Jerry's Lefty Guitars as well, because there's only so many Fender Strats or Telecaster videos I think anyone ever wants to watch, and reviewing the same sort of stuff all the time gets a bit boring. So any of these other brands are great, and there's so much good stuff that isn't Fender, Gibson, or Epiphone, or Squier. There's just so much great stuff, and that's the kind of thing that I'm more interested in showcasing for a while, because it might not get the views, but they're just so good. And there's a guitar I'm very close to wanting to buy if if it all works out from Jerry's. I'm just waiting on a few things to sort of get into place first, and then we may make a decision on that. But yeah, oh man, it was so much fun over there. It really was. But yeah, on topic again. Sorry, Brain. Yes, I will. I'll see if I can. I'll see what I can do. I don't even know if they make left-handed guitars. Quicksilver, welcome, man. Says there's a heat wave in Europe right now. There's a cold wave down south. Oh, is there? Yeah, well, it's cold. It's winter time here. But, you can't really complain when you see places like New York and Canada just like brutally cold. So, yeah, I shouldn't complain that much. I actually got outside today without, a jacket on and all that. The sun was out, so it wasn't too bad. Andy says, hi Shane, just bought my first artist guitar, the Aprecia 6, which is a modern Tele with twin humbuckers. It's crazy value for money. I heard about artist guitars from your videos. Thanks. Hey, no worries, man. Appreciate it. Another mate of mine actually just bought the gold top with the P90s. I got a photo about that the other night. So, yeah, it looks... while I haven't played that one, I know there's some that aren't in Lefties last time I looked at their site, so I tend to sort of switch off when I just don't see Lefties on a website, but they make good stuff, and for the price, they're great, so hope you like it. For those who don't know, artist guitars aren't Harley Bentons, but they're similar. I don't know if they get made at like the same place, but there are some inherent differences between them, even in similar models. So, yeah, they're a good point of difference. I always say, like, if you can get artist guitars easier than you can buy Harley Bentons or vice versa, just do that. They both are very, very similar. Eric says, hey Shane, glad to see you on a live stream again. Thank you, mate. Great to see you too. Fantastic work in the States with the series. Been great to share the journey. Thank you. Hey, no worries at all. Plenty more coming up. There's going to be a good series of sort of like store walkthroughs, and then also some follow-up videos, just conversational stuff that sort of took place. Kind of like interviews as well. I'm going to mix it up. So thank you. Eric Warrington says, hey, guitar nerds, welcome. If you're watching this, please leave a thumbs up or whatever. I'd appreciate that. It always helps. If you watch my videos that I post as well, drop a comment on those if you ever have any questions, or if you like the tone, let us know. Or if you'd like to see more of a certain type of guitar or something a little bit different, that's super cool. Is it Duke says, UK fan and Lefty player, great reviews and gear I'm learning about now. My playing is improving just by watching you. Thanks. Hey, you're welcome, man. I'm a visual and more of a visual learner myself than I am just with audio. Like, I can learn stuff from just listening to albums, but if the video's there, it makes the whole thing easier. So yeah, you can pinch a lot of licks from players online. I've been watching a lot of Guy King on Instagram, just a great guitar player, and I'm like, man, this guy has some of the best stuff. And when you can hear and see these licks, it's like, I'm gonna work this out. This is pretty cool. We've got Yankee Peters who says, hey Shane from Detroit. That was one of the first places I ever went when I first went overseas in 1999. He says, thoughts on the Hoodoo Gurus? For their time, a great band. I don't think they've made music for 30 years or 20 years at least, but I don't mind some of their stuff. I think they've stood the test of time better than contemporary bands of the same type, like Midnight Oil. I don't mind Midnight Oil, but the vocal kills me. I think Hoodoo Gurus probably has a better overall sound in 2020, which is a long way away from when they first started releasing songs. But yeah, if you're looking to listen to something 80s and Australian, Hoodoo Gurus, pretty cool. John says, artist put 2 new Lefties up for pre-order today. Ooh, all right. Let's take a look. They've actually sent me an acoustic amp to review, which will be my first. So I can't wait to see what that's like, but I'll take a look and see. I haven't checked my email anyway, so it could be that I've been emailed about it as well. My web speed sucks when I'm uploading to YouTube here. Yeah, for those who are wondering about the black and white, we're doing the film noir thing right now. We're doing it. Actually, for those who have just joined, I used this face scrub earlier, and it burnt my face. Like it's so red all around here, and it's horrible. Black and white's the only way I could get around it. All right. A cream Strat and a brown Sunburst 335 style hollow body. Well, that's cool. I'll have to take a look and see if they're interested in some videos. That'd be sweet. That was to John. Thanks for the heads up. You're the master of the of pretty much the Harley Bentons and the artist guitars. Oh, excuse me. Greetings from Cyprus in Europe. You managed to play the SLO 30 yet? No, I still haven't. I don't think I've played any of the Soldanos. Did we? No, I think that's the quick answer. Unfortunately not. I'd love to play one. I really would. I actually bought a Joyo D's amp after watching your reviews. Joyo's, what's the D's amp? I'm not too sure. I can't remember what that is or what that abbreviated is, but after I reviewed it, Joyo, one of those Sweet Baby amps, was it? Or Class D's, you mean? Line out into a PV 40 watt and blend the sound, and get a great little drum machine. Oh, so you're talking about the DS practice amp. Man, that thing kicks ass. I got mine right over... Yeah, well, it was until I... Oh, yeah, it's in the cupboard at the moment, but it's usually on the floor. That thing rocks. A good friend of mine, Dom, who's a great player, who's been on the channel a couple of times as well, he bought one because the looping functionality is so good. If you haven't seen that video, just type in Joyo practice amp and you'll see this like black cube thing show up. Skip to the jam track at the end. I put this loop thing at the end, and man, it sounds great. It's really, really cool. We got Richard says, all the best here from Washington, PA. Welcome. Thanks for dropping in, mate. I appreciate it. Jazz, S-Jazz, or SJZZ, however we want to say that, ZZ. He says, hey Shane, interested in a valve amp mainly for clean and a bit of overdrive. What's your experience with an Artist Tweedtone 20R, or should I get a small Fender amp? The Artist Tweedtone 20 is one of the best amps of all time that I've used, especially for 20 watts. It also has a master output volume. You can just turn it down and get good sounds at lower volumes. All valve amps sound better the more you turn them up, but that's an amp that really works at all volumes. The clean channel is better than a Fender Blues Junior, and the drive channel is dedicated, so you've got 2 completely independent channels. And that's an amp I've used live probably 60, 70 times. No kidding, it's really good. Three or four of my friends also own them. Dave, Neil, Harold, me, who else? There's probably some other guy in the mix there that I've forgotten, but they're great. So I would have no hesitations recommending that. It's actually far better. They released another one that didn't really last long. The Artist Tweed, not in terms of like reliability, but they stopped making it. The Tweedtone is killer. Mine's right there. I love that amp. So yeah, I'd rather buy that any day of the week over a Blues Junior. And I'm a big Blues Junior fan, but the Artist Tweedtone kills it. It really does. It's way more flexible. It sounds better. The cabinet's bigger. It's got more oomph. The drive channel's way better. It's not even close. So Very good amplifier. Yeah, check out my videos on it. It's really cool. Now, Phil, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, man. And Ricky, welcome, man. All right, we've got Joel. I'll just scroll back up here, sorry. Any plans for gigs at pubs or blues jams on the cards? So, yeah, I've just started going back to jams again. I'm pretty rusty. I finally sung and played guitar the other night. First time in like 7 weeks. I played guitar just at home and at Jerry's in the US, but playing live is a completely different thing. When it comes to gigs, I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence about it. I haven't really wanted to pursue playing gigs unless it's just going to be great, like good bunch of people and it's tidy and organized. I'm not interested in like doing the whole chasing gigs thing. It just takes too much time and I'm not that interested in doing that. But the jam night thing is where it's at, because you can turn up, get a play, go home. There's no commitment, no pressure. You just show up and do your thing. And yeah, so I'll be definitely getting back into that more coming up for the rest of this year. Let us know in the comments whether or not you play live or you're aspiring to play live as well, everybody. You can, if that's your goal, I think anyone who's playing guitar should get right into doing that. All right, let me just get back to this one. Hey Shane, great to see you again. Can I ask, I just got a new Strat. It is set up for standard tuning. Is it normal when I lower the tuning of one string, the rest of the strings go sharp? It means the tremolo's floating, right? Like the tremolo arm. That'd be my guess. If you want to put heavy strings on there or bring it, that's what most people do. They play at E flat, but they'll put like 13 gauge or 12 gauge strings on there or something. You'll need to hardtail the Strat down and just have it so you can still use it, but it doesn't move. And that should pretty much sort that out. That's what I do on all my Strats. The Kiesel is a very similar system. The PRS Custom 24, they've all got those floating trems. Just have it so it doesn't move unless you want it to move. Unless you're, a diehard tremolo guy and you want it sort of floating. The floating trems will cause all kinds of grief. So my suggestion is, yeah, just lock it off. Grab 4 springs for the back. Put 2 on either side. You don't have to worry about a middle one unless you really need it. And that should be enough just to keep it sort of flat against the body of the guitar. And you can kind of test out whether or not it moves by playing like double stops. So just bend like the B and G string pretty far up the neck and see if it starts to move. Just eyeball the side of the guitar where the tremolo is. And if it doesn't move, you're done. That's what I would suggest. Sometimes, also, if you're getting really weird sort of like tuning problems, it could mean that the nut isn't filed properly. And this isn't uncommon for Fender guitars. As much as I love their stuff, Fender cannot cut a nut properly to save their life. I've seen it on custom shop guitars I've owned. It's just the first thing that's always wrong with a Fender guitar is the nut. Everything else is generally fine, but I've seen so many guitars when I borrowed them or picked them up in other places, and then I'm like, why is the nuts cut so terribly? So, yeah, it could be a bit of that. All right. SV says, hey Shane, recently upgraded my guitar, Fender Vintera 60s Strat Surf Green, but now I need to upgrade my amp, Fender Champ 20. Any recommendations on smaller tube amps with a headphone jack? Headphone jack. I have to have a think about that, because I don't really find like headphone jacks on tube amps to be very good. Generally, the best ones come from amps that are mostly digital, and I think that can also be true for a lot of good practice amps. A tube amp shouldn't really have a headphone jack, in my experience. I mean, there might be some out there that do. I'm sure there is, and some that combine a bit of sort of like digital back end to give you a decent sound. But a good valve amp, you turn it on, turn it up, and you're good to go. But a good practice amp should be mostly solid state or digital. I think that would give you more flexibility. The one that I was talking about before, the Joyo DC15, that is so good as a home practice amplifier. Unless you really want a tube amp, you can definitely find them. I think the band amp ones are kind of like a hybrid. A as you know, there's another one that I reviewed ages ago from NUX. It's not a tube amp at all. It's like this little headphone amp slash little speaker system thing. It's portable and it's great. Another great one, again, the what's it called? The Jam Buddy. Have a look at that. Again, that's not a valve one, but it's a great practice amp. So yeah, I think you're gonna get more usable tones at home with something other than a valve amp. That'd be my suggestion, but I'll have a think about that. I'm not sure off the top of my head which amps I can think of that are valve and also have a headphone jack that sounds good. Because you just don't want one that's got one. You want one that actually sounds good. And congrats on the guitar too. Very cool. Have I ever tried a set of Hollywood saddles on a Strat? Solves the problem of the screws scraping your hand. No. I can't say I've ever really had that problem either. At least I've never noticed it before. Yeah, maybe it's just where I play rhythm guitar. I don't ever scrape my hand. I've never really noticed that before, but I can understand what you're talking about because there's those little kind of screws that are sort of flat on the top that stick up, and yeah, that makes sense. So the quick answer is no, I haven't tried them, but I like the idea of that if it's a problem for players. That sounds good. It fixed a good problem. I just realized I'm like 2.5 pages behind the chat here. Hang on. Would you try the new UA pedals such as the Dream 65? Greetings from Greece. Thank you for the question, and thanks for joining in. Greece, home of the greatest pedals in the world. I've said it a million times. Well, not a million times. I've said it a lot, and I stand by that. They make the best stuff. I'd love to try those pedals. Absolutely. If I get a chance to borrow them from like Sky Music or something, I'll see what I can do. That's probably the best thing. Just being able to pick and choose and try them out. I have a couple of other pedals here that I really want to demo, and one of them is the Strymon amp in a box thing. It's the Iridium. It's great. I used it at Jerry's on all the intro tracks. That's what you were listening to with my pedal, with my actual overdrive and delay. So, and then the amp was used the rest of the video because you can't hear the backing music with an amp on 6. But yeah, there's a lot of great amp in a box pedals. I'd love to try one of those. Have I ever played a car Mercury combo? You know what? I don't even know if I've ever heard of them. I'll just take a quick look, see if my internet is back. It is. Let's have a look. Wow. So they're $4,000 and they look like a 10-watt amp. Oh no, it's a 16-watt amp. I was close. Look, I'm sure they're great. I haven't tried one. I haven't actually heard of these before. The other one that came up was a Milkman in the search. They're great amps as well, but very expensive as also. I'm always open to trying amps. Amps are, I think, a major part of getting your tone. You know, having a nice guitar in your hands is great, but a good amp will make everything sound good. And that's part of the magic. All right, so John says, so I've recently been leaving the Marshall DSL 40 at home, and I've been hooked on the Blackstar HD20. It sounds great and is not heavy to carry around. Cheers. Love for the music store vids, sorry. Thanks, John. Interestingly enough, I got to hear a Blackstar the other night, and it was the first one I've heard in the context of a mix and went, wow, that's pretty good. It was all the ear test. A mate of mine has some of the best amps you can get. He's just got heaps of great stuff. And he also bought my Super Reverb off me a while back. Anyway, he plays Bad Cat amps predominantly, and every time I hear them, I'm like, that's a gnarly tone. It just sticks out of the mix in a good way. It just sounds like a pro rig the way he dials it in, and he can play like a monster. And then I heard his tone for the first time in like 2 months, because first time back at the jam. I was like, man, your tone is so good. It's just like fills the room in all the good ways. He goes, oh, that's the Blackstar. I was like, what? Every time I've heard a Blackstar amp in the context of music, it has this awful scooped sound. So at least now I know they can be dialed in a way that works for the kind of music we play. And it sounded unreal. I think his is the 40 watt amp possibly. It may be the 20. I'll need to double check that. But yeah, look, light is good. It really is. My Marshall didn't see a lot of action because it's the heaviest amp out of all of them. The Blues Deluxe is heavier than the Artist Tweed Tone, but not as heavy as the Marshall, and that's the one I've been taking out more often than not. But yeah, lighter amps are good. There's no question about it. If they sound good. You know, sometimes taking a heavier amp that sounds better is a better move, depending on where you're playing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Sorry to hear that, Mike. It says multiple sclerosis put a stop to my live gig days. Man, that's full on. Sorry to hear that. Ricky says, agreed, Fender has the worst nuts. They really need to address the issue. I've seen it on $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 custom shop guitars. So has Rick. It's like, why do I need to replace this as soon as I buy it? I saw a Fender custom shop guitar that the nut was cut so poorly that the fat E string would slide out of the groove. It's like, come on, man. Really? It's just so expensive. I don't know what it is about Fender. They do all their other stuff is like CNC machined, and it's just, it must be like this one of the most efficient and reliable, like automatic process driven things that you could do. And then they cut the nuts like that, and it's just a nightmare. I don't know. Obviously not all of their guitars have that problem, but a lot of them do. I think more than what people... I think the more you play guitars, the more you realize it as well. Yeah, the Mustang Micro. Yeah, that's a great little amp as well, but it isn't going to be like a valve amp. I think that's what someone was asking earlier. But yeah, there's so many great little amps. So anything that doesn't have like loads of menus is a good practice amp. You just want to be able to play, not tinker too much. Dial in a good sound, and then you're good to go. John says the NUX BTLite is the other one Shane is thinking of. Oh, there you go. Yeah, the BTLite, that's the one. That is a great amp, man. Actually, I'm showcasing that on one of the Guitar Search Saturdays coming up. I'm like, here it is. This is awesome. You can record that amp with like a condenser microphone. It sounds like a stack. It is unreal. Great to hear you getting out and going to jams again. Not sure what side of town you're from, but do you know of any blues jams southeast? You know, I don't know where there's too many on at the moment. You can probably find like the standard like blues association jams, but I try to stay clear of those kind of places. They're generally pretty, just not fun. I've had some mixed experiences there over the years, and the standard at them is pretty poor as well, which, you know, it's good that everyone's getting out there, but if you want to have a good play with a good rhythm section, those MBAS Melbourne Blues things aren't the place to go. I haven't seen that be very good for many, many years. You know, the Elwood one might be okay if that's still going. You know, I don't really know of like ones on... I don't know. I'll have to have a think about that as well. Hey, we've got Quentin James. Welcome. Martone says, hi Shane, just want to say, love the channel and love this time slot. What is your favorite neck shape and fret size? So fret size, large. If it's a Gibson, those frets are amazing. If it's a Fender, I like the 6105s, which are like taller, sort of thinner frets. That's usually what I would go for. Just something tall rather than those painted on ones you'd find on the Japanese electric guitars, for example. Not all of them have that fret issue, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of vintage frets. So they can be medium jumbos or large frets of any description, and I'm usually pretty fine. The only ones I don't like are those super low and narrow ones. They're sometimes a playable guitar, but they just don't last. And if you're a blues player and you want to get like a lot of purchase on the note, really bend up the strings hard and dig in, they don't last very long. And this comes from experience. My Telecaster, when I first bought it, best guitar I'd played, terrible frets. And after a few years, I ended up having to put stainless steel frets in there, and they've never gone south since. So definitely a great thing to do. And neck shape size, I'm more partial to something fat generally. So either the Fender U-necks are pretty cool, or any sort of 50s style neck would be usually what I go for. But I'm not that fussy anymore with it. I used to make a lot of assumptions on, I only buy a guitar if it's got this. But I played so many great guitars, especially in the last sort of 3 years, that I almost don't care if the guitar's good to play, it is good. And that's kind of how I think about it now. Sorry about the burps. Just get the caffeine going. John says, oh no, Quentin is here. Yeah, he's a troublemaker. I think the best neck out of all the ones I've got is on my American Original 50s Telecaster. That's amazing. It really is great in the hand. The Strat I've got has a V-neck, which is also pretty cool. But I don't say I love all guitars with V-necks. It's something different and it feels good as well. All that sort of stuff's personal choice. Like, I know people that will only play modern Cs, and they love it. They swear by it. They hate fat necks, gives their hand fatigue, but it also comes down to how big your hand is, right? So, and just what works best for you. So pick up as many guitars as you can. Try and find what feels the most comfortable. You'll know it as soon as you pick up a guitar. The first time that happened to me was with my 52 reissue Telecaster I bought like 12 years ago. I'd picked that up after only playing modern Cs. As a lefty from Fender, all I could find was, your Made in Mexico Strat and Tally and a couple of Squires. There was just nothing around at that time in Australia. And then I went to San Fran and I picked that up and I was like, wow, I get it. This neck is amazing. And it's not even that fat, but it's fat enough that it's very different to your modern C. That's also one of my sort of favorite shapes. It's not quite as big as the U-necks. Fat Philosopher says, you once said in a video that your PRS SE is the only guitar you use the trem on. Why do you think that trem is so stable? It's a great design. I think it's got probably something to do with better engineering. Those 2-point trems, I find at least, are better than the Fender ones. Not all Fender ones are bad. I do use it on a few guitars now from time to time. My Fender American Original 50s Strat has one of those angled ones, so I can leave it on in the case. Usually I take them off, and just like never use them again. But my Strat and the PRS are the two that I use it on, or just leave it on, I should say. When it comes down to the Kiesel, that also has a really good tremolo system, probably arguably as good or better than the others. But I have to put the tremolo arm on, which means it doesn't always go on every time I play live. But that's a great guitar too. But yeah, the PRS probably has the most sort of playable feel out of all of them. It's a weird sort of thing to say, but it responds well, and it's very reliable in terms of tuning stability. At least mine is. I know some people complain about the tuning stability on the SEs. Mine's been awesome. I've done festivals outside in the sun and with that guitar, and it's just been awesome. All right, we've got Mike Shaner Music. Welcome. All right. Oh, the chat just moved. All right. So if you're currently watching, you haven't dropped a thumbs up, please do so. That'd be super cool. I'm going to timestamp all of this after the fact as well. Probably go for I don't know. We'll go for probably an hour at least here. Take everybody's questions. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back down. Hi mate, I'm almost set on buying the mid-price Revstar that you reviewed. I love the tones and would be my only humbucker. What other left-hand similar price should I consider? It's one of the best guitars I've played. If you're talking about the is it the Revstar Standard or the Element? Both were great. The Element actually to me was a nicer guitar to play. I don't know if it was like the finish on the neck or what, but that is a really good guitar. Other lefties, Gretsch. They've got some streamliners that are unreal. So, yeah, Gretsch, Revstar. What else would I consider in there? You know, Epiphone as well, but I think Epiphone might actually be more expensive for sort of like their higher end guitars. So, yeah, sorry, can't find your comment, but I don't know where you're from exactly, but if you're in Australia, Gretsch guitars will be around the same price. Probably all over the place as well, but those elements and the standards are unreal. So, yeah, hard guitar to beat. I don't often watch my reviews after I post them because I spend so much time editing them, or if I'm just following up comments, occasionally they pop up. But I went back and listened to that black guitar, and I was like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But in terms of humbucker guitars, as a lefty, yeah, there's not a lot of other ones I would say are as nice to play as those. And yeah, just so you know, I didn't get to keep any of those guitars. They were just on loan, so I'm not invested in it whatsoever. All right. Donnie says, I have the Fender Mustang GTX 50 and the Micro Mustang. Both are fun and help me practice at home, at volume levels, at solid home volume levels. Sorry, I can't read today, man. Having the foot pedal to loop and switch presets on the GTX 50 is a big bonus. Yeah, absolutely. They're great amps. And again, you can play them at any volume. They've got the XLR output as well, so you can go into your sound card or whatever the case may be, or use headphones. Those type of amps, like I mentioned earlier, are far better for just practicing than trying to get the most out of a small tube amp, unless you can really wind it up, you know. Because even a great sounding tube amp that is 5 watts, it's going to be still too loud, and to get the sound that you want, you have to turn them up. You know, there's a few exceptions, but none of them have headphone jacks. I can't even remember if the Bugera had a headphone jack. The V5 Infinium, that was one of my favorites at all time. I've said it a million times on this channel, but 5 watts, 1 watt, or 0.1 watts. Very customizable in terms of its sound. John says, hi Todd, saw today your post about winning the Gretsch. Congrats, mate. Hope you get heaps of enjoyment out of it. Yeah, congrats. You won a guitar. That's killer. The SE is great. Took me 9 months to bond with it. Good, man. Finally. But even from day one, I could tell it was a quality guitar. Those are unreal. The more you play it, the more you realize how much easier it is to play than most everything else. It really is that good. There's 5 pounds difference between the DSL 40 and the Blues Deluxe, maybe 10 if you put an ultra heavy speaker in it, and I did. And don't go to the gym. Don't get it for the weight. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, the stock speaker is the Celestion. What's it called? The V-Type, and they're okay. But I've got a Swamp Thing in my Blues Deluxe, which usually has just the Fender crappiness speaker in there, the garbage speakers. Not in all of them, but just in the Blues Deluxe when I bought mine like 10 years ago, crap speakers. So the Swamp Thing's in that, and I've got a Texas Heat in the Marshall. Texas Heat's got one of the biggest magnets you can find. Great chunky low end response, takes out the high end. Just a great combo for that amp. It really does sound good. It almost gives me a similar tone to what I'd get with my pedals going into my Fender amp. So I try to make the amp sort of give me back what I want to hear by changing the speaker. The best mod you can make, but also added weight to both of them. I think the Texas Heat, I could be wrong, but I feel like that's a heavier speaker than the Fender. But it's also the physical size. This is the good thing about the Blues Deluxe. It's actually physically smaller than the Marshall. You would think they're similar sizes, but the cabs are so much bigger on the DSL. It's not only deeper, but they're bigger. So getting that in and out of a car can be way more challenging than an amp that's almost as heavy but smaller. It's, yeah. But if you're working out, you should be good. I'm back at it now. I'm getting back into the exercise. It's good to be back for that at least. Anyway. All right. Hey Shane, I'm about to head to LA in a couple of weeks. Where's the best place other than Norm's around Hollywood and the Valley area to grab a vintage Gibson or Fender? You know what? I don't go to LA, so I can't really fill you in. If you're going to San Fran, I'd give you a list of places, but LA is not a place I go to very often, other than going from there to somewhere else. I'd like to revisit that area at some point and have a good look around, but unfortunately, I don't know any others. And he's not really in LA either. He's in Tarzana, which is like quite a ways out of the city. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be great electric guitar or, you know, just guitar shops in general all throughout LA. So someone else is watching, or if you're watching on the replay, leave some of your favorite shops in the comment section, because yeah, all I do, I get onto Google Earth. So go to earth.google.com instead of the maps one. Put the map over that area, type in guitar shops near me or whatever, and boom, or near this area, whatever area you want to find. And it zooms in and it brings them all up. It's the greatest tool, and you can get a sense of like how big the shop is and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what I do. But yeah, enjoy your trip, man. That's super cool. Hey, we got Autism Rocks here. Welcome, mate. He says, hey, Shane, so glad you had a great time in Florida. We live in Pensacola, not too far from where you were. That's awesome. I've been to Pensacola before. It's a great side of the world. Great side of Florida as well. It's, yeah, beautiful place. So thank you for joining in. I shared your little Instagram thing earlier, so that was cool. And, oh, yeah, I didn't reply to your email. Happy to help. So just... yeah, shoot me an email is probably the easiest. Just intheblues@outlook.com, and I'll help you out. And only we know what that is, so let's do it. All right. Red October says, I have the Champion 50XL and loving it. That's a great amp, actually. That was a really fun amp for me to review. That was super cool. Mike is a lefty as well. Is that the left hand? A little avatar there, a little emoticon, I should say. Martone says, sorry, excuse me. I'm in love with the neck on a guitar at the moment, but don't know if I can rock the color. It only comes in sparky blue. Or sparkle blue. Yeah, that can be, you know, I shouldn't say it can be a deal breaker, but I bought a guitar that I didn't love the color of, but I loved everything else about it. It's my Tokai Love Rock. I've had that for probably at least 10 years, maybe longer. I didn't love the slash red color. It was just way too generic, but the neck was amazing. The tone was amazing. The feel, everything. It just was a great guitar minus the color. And all these years later, I'm happy I bought it because I've never found another one I like as much. And whether or not you can find another one of those guitars that you're talking about down the track or at another store that has a different color or online or whatever the case may be. But yeah, sometimes the color's the least important thing. I'm also considering buying a guitar coming up. I'm going to sell a few things, and I'm thinking about getting this from Jerry's, actually. And, you know, the color's not something I would normally go for, but everything else about it is awesome. So I'm like, who cares? I might as well get it, right? That's my theory about it. Ricky says, I love my Tony Iommi SG. The neck is way different to my 61 reissue, and plus the P90s have such a biting tone. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know there was an SG version of that with the P90s. I think I played the humbucker ones, and they had the US Gibson humbuckers, and they sounded unreal. Fat Philosopher says, in the blues, do you ever gig with an acoustic? And if yes, do you ever use an acoustic amp or just plug it into your regular amp? I don't really play acoustic anymore. I have played a few times in the last sort of 5 years with acoustic guitar, but I now currently don't own one. That's how infrequently I was playing acoustic guitar. I don't enjoy it anywhere near as much as electric. But with that in mind, your question was, do I plug it into an acoustic amp or a regular amp? Generally, neither. I plug straight into a PA system. If the PA system has like some sort of reverb effect or gain control on there, I'll usually just go directly into the PA system. When I used to play way more acoustic guitar, I always opted to go directly into a PA system. Unless the speakers were so far forward, I would then plug into the clean channel of one of my amps. I never had an acoustic amp. So I always had my own PA system or a fallback or something like that. Or I was always at the mercy of whatever the venue had. And sometimes if you can't hear yourself, you've got to go into something. So that's when I would just have, any of my amps on clean channel. I even remember back when I had my Yorkville Trainer YCV40. That was my clean channel amp because it was for acoustic, because it kind of worked. It's not ideal, and it doesn't give you the most like greatest acoustic tone you've ever seen. But unless you can afford to go get an acoustic amp and you really need one, that's definitely going to give you the best sound. I mean, they're made for that, and they're generally voiced in a way that is very similar to a PA system, except you've got reverbs and delays and all that kind of stuff. You can sometimes also plug microphones into them. And they're great, but I never had one of those. I always just went directly into a soundboard at a desk. Wrong-handed emoji. Yeah, that's it. Hey, no worries, Autism Rocks. Happy to help. Just, let us know what you need, and intheblues@outlook.com. By the way, folks, go subscribe over to Autism Rocks. You can support their channel. Pump out some really good content, so yeah, go check it out. I'm subscribed. Have I tried any Lefty Epiphone 335s in Sky Music? I just saw them online. I've never tried one. No. So when I was in there last, which is a while ago now, probably 8 weeks ago, probably longer, they didn't have any left-handed ES335s from Epiphone. I actually would love to try one again. I used to gig with those guitars all the time. Like, that was my main guitar for years, was their Dot 335. So I don't know what they're like now, because I haven't played one for so long, but they were always a pretty solid instrument. One of my favorite, like, less expensive 335s, and it, like, wipes the floor with the Epiphone Casino. Like, the pickups are better, the usability's better. At loud volumes, you can really make that guitar work in a live situation. Just everything about it's more functional. You get the block down the middle, so it handles drive better. It's funny because I saved up. This was years ago. I saved up for my Gibson 335, and I sold off my Epiphone. It was the biggest mistake I made. The one that I had back in the day, it sounded and played great. That was just a real bad moment for me to get a guitar that was way more expensive, that was worse. And that's how I started getting into Tokai guitars as well, because they're really good. So yeah, check out the used market as well. See if you can find one, that might pop up somewhere. But yeah, give them a go. I've been a big fan of Epiphone Dots for a long time. Hey Shane, any major guitar disappointments recently? Anything you'd say was a bit shocking RE quality? It's a good question, because most of the stuff I borrow from the shop. So one thing, I mentioned this on, I think, the last live stream. The supersonic quality was terrible. I was rapt I got that amplifier. I took it out and I played it live, and it started squealing. And I lost all of my top end, and I thought, it must be something in my signal chain, right? The amp just took off, like a high frequency was starting. I thought it must be something else. Can't be a new amp. So we did a recording session here with 4 of us. It did it again, except now I was getting like really high levels of static coming through the sound. Replacing valves, 12AX7s with others that I had, or we all had on the night. Nothing really fixed it. There was a lot of microphonic issues with the amp. Sometimes if I used the foot switch, the noise floor of the amp would go up, even if nothing else is on. It was like, what is going on with this? So yeah, the Supersonic 22, one of the greatest sounding disappointments in recent times. other than that, I can't really think of much that I've tried that has really, I've gone, oh man, what was I thinking? Or what were they thinking with it? I don't often waste my time on reviews anymore where like the product's crap. I'll do that if I say, yeah, I'll put a video out, but it's a review video. And if it's really bad, like that jam stack or that stupid light thing you used to stick onto your fretboard that tears as soon as you put it on, then I'll do a video. But yeah, I don't like sort of wasting my time on products like that. So yeah, that was probably it, at least in recent memory. I've sort of switched off from the my instant recall with what I was doing before I went away, because my head's full of all the recent stuff I've just shot that I still need to finish. So about every 4 days or so, you'll see a new Lefty going up. And if you're a right-handed player, give them a watch as well, because obviously all these guitars are available right-handed from somewhere else. And I usually try to find links for stuff if you're a right-hander as well. But man, I gotta say, some of the stuff I played at Jerry's was some of the best guitars I've played. Full stop. Like, he's got such great stuff. George says, I missed the beginning, but is there any reason it's black and white? It's actually a cool vibe. Reminds me of a black and white art house movie. Thank you. Yeah, I mentioned this. I'll mention it one last time. Face scrub earlier. This new charcoal stuff. Put it on my face. Left red burn rings all around here. It's funny, you just can't see it. It looks really sort of, looks a bit funny on camera. It's a bit white here. Oh, down here, this way. But it's actually bright red. It's awful. It was either that or try to desaturate the red channel on the camera, and it was too much work. So black and white it is. I hadn't done one of these for so long, and I've been meaning to do it. I'm like, oh, I got to do one tonight. And then that happened. I was like, oh. And yeah, I put aloe vera cream on. It's like the worst sunburn you've ever seen, but just like a couple of sections. Looks like I'm wearing... It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's how we do it. But yeah, black and white looks kind of cool. You know, you ask people which photo they like better, the one in black and white or the one in color, and the majority of people always pick the black and white one because it's got like more vibe, or it looks more artistic or whatever. So we're rocking black and white. How's the stream quality been tonight anyway? I'm trying this 60 frames per second thing with the camera at 60 frames. So I'm hoping the quality of it looks all right. Otherwise, I mean, other than the fact it's in black and white. I tell you what, everybody who's watching this right now, let us know if you've seen something that's been a huge disappointment. Whether you've bought something or whether you've seen other reviews of stuff that has just been like really lackluster. There's not a lot of people that really give you honest reviews. I'm not saying they're dishonest reviews either, but you know, if someone buys something, they're generally favoring it. And I'm like that too, because you're invested in it and you bought it for a reason. But if there's sort of like anything you've seen kicking around that you're like, man, this is awful, let us know. Actually, I picked up a couple of guitars that really surprised me in the positive sense that I've never picked up before, and I'll be showcasing those on the channel coming up pretty soon. I want to make my pedal board as small as possible. Do you have any suggestions? Maybe a multi-effects pedal, 3 or 4. I would say don't buy a multi-effects pedal. I would say pick what you need. You buy a multi-effects pedal, you end up using a handful of things all of the time, and then you're better off suited buying the actual analog effects. I made the same mistakes. There's nothing wrong with buying a multi-effects pedal if it has a feature set that you can use, right? Some people buy them to use the reverb and delays a lot more because they're more musical than most sort of analog counterparts, or you can record with them without an amp, and that's really cool too. I think those multi-effects pedals are great at doing that, or going directly into a PA system or sound card. But if you want to take a multi-effects pedal and use it live, you need to make sure it's got tangible controls on it, like the NUX Cerberus. That thing is awesome because it gives you physical controls you can tailor on the fly. You don't have to menu dive. All that kind of stuff, forget about it. Just buy a delay, an overdrive, or a boost, or something like that, whatever it is you need, a distortion pedal, and a tuner. Start there and find out what else you need. You'll save yourself a lot of money. And go for the standards. Get a Tube Screamer or a Blues Driver. Get a Boss digital delay. Just find the things that have been around for 30 years that everyone still loves, and you'll realize why. That's my suggestion. Volume pedals at the beginning of the chain or at the end. That's from Alexander. All right, so you can do this kind of, I wouldn't say at the end of your signal chain, but I would put it either before or after your drive circuit. So if you have it before an overdrive, you're going to get a slight volume increase, but more saturation. And if that's what you're looking for, it works great there. But alternatively, if you have it after your overdrive or distortion pedal, it takes that tone and makes it really loud. So there's your options. I wouldn't put it at the end of my signal chain altogether, like after my reverb, after my delay pedal, for example. It would be somewhere either side of my main overdrive. And that it's up to you how you want to use it. A friend of mine's got a Klon as a clean boost after his overdrive, and when he clicks it on, it gets friggin' loud. But if you had it on the other side, it would be a whole lot more. Not you, Neil. I'm talking about someone else. If you have it on the other side, it gives you more preamp gain. So you get more of like a bigger, easier solo tone without it sort of chopping everybody's head off. So experiment around. There's no right way of putting a pedal board together, but I would just keep all of the delay and reverb effects last, and then sort of find your way with the rest of them. But for me personally, I've got my boost pedal before my overdrive. If I have it after, it gets really, really, really loud. Especially with 40 watt amps. Cheekbone says, hey, new fan, I'm chasing a 335 Les Paul. What are your thoughts on a Bernie or Aria Pro 2s? You know, I haven't really played any of the Aria Pro stuff, but the Bernies make good stuff. For those who don't know, they're Japanese-made electric guitars. Any of those sort of old-school lawsuit guitars are going to give you great tone. I think they're still underappreciated, and if you can find them for a deal, the great thing about the Japanese-made electric guitars, they just don't hold their value. You know, you buy them used and you get the best bargain ever, but as a seller, you don't ever make any kind of return on your investment. So you can always pick those up for an absolute steal. So I would have no hesitations recommending Greco or Bernie or any of those Orville guitars, or even my Tokai. I'm a big fan of those. I had a 335 and a LP style Love Rock. Still got the Love Rock, and it's outlived a lot of my guitars. But pick them up, make sure they play well. If you're buying them used, which obviously you probably are, check the frets, because you don't want to get a guitar with stripped frets and then it's $400 to have them replaced, depending on where you live, right? So just do some due diligence on checking all of the things that could possibly go wrong. I did a video on that years ago. If you're watching this after, I'll try and find it and link it up here. But it was like 13 tips for buying a used guitar or something like that. Anyway, I should redo that at some point. It's a video I could do much better these days. But great guitars, so yeah, that's cool. Speaking of dishonest reviews, there are many well-known YouTubers that do it as well. You're one of the best for sure. Thanks, man. Yeah, I think it's important to kind of, like, when you're playing great stuff, there's not a lot to critique, because a lot of stuff that I might not like is highly subjective, and I don't focus on that anymore. Like, oh, I wish the neck was fatter. It's like, there's 50% of the people or more might not even want a fat neck, right? So I don't really talk about that kind of stuff as a negative. It's like, what was the overall playing experience like with this, and how does it sound? Unless there's something seriously wrong with a piece of gear, that's the only time I'll say, you know, this is my experience with it. For example, on my tech channel, I recently got sent something, and the software kept crashing, and I mentioned it at the end of the review. I was like, this is my user experience with this. But I also have to take into context that stuff can also be a one-off, especially when you're talking about guitars. The switch might not be right. It was for a good example of this is when I reviewed the Miami Blues Stratocaster. I think it was the tone control. It didn't work in any position. It wasn't even wired in, or the wiring had come off. And I was like, that's the first time I've ever seen that in any Fender guitar. So I'm not going to grill them too much, but it was worth mentioning still in the video, right? Because it's part of the playing experience, and you can watch that if you want to. Great guitars, though. Hey, we got Petoskey Stones is here. Welcome, mate. Any update opinion on the twin reverb Tonemaster? So I don't have mine anymore. I just didn't need another amp sitting around, but good and loud. Still probably not like 100% there in terms of its live playing experience, but if you're a pedal player or if you just want a big clean tone, they'll definitely deliver that. Like I always said with those amps, they're really close replicas of the tone of whatever they're going for, the deluxe, the twin, and then the super reverb. I would probably say the super reverb's a better sound to some extent because I'm more partial to a super reverb tone, and they look really cool. But yeah, I've never been like the biggest twin fan. I have owned Fender tube twins before, and it's just too heavy. I don't want to carry that around. I think most people are pretty much done lugging 100-watt Fender twins in and out of venues or in and out of their car to the lounge room or whatever the case may be, right? So I would much prefer that experience of just convenience over lugging a big heavy amp around. I'm pretty much done with those 2x12 50-kilogram kind of beasts. But I like a lot of the modern conveniences on those. I think the trade-off with however would respond in loud in a room is worth it for that XLR output on the back and the power attenuator and all that. You know, when I did that John Mayer jam thing on one of those vertical video things, those shorts, I had the twin on, I think, half power, and I cranked it, and it sounded so good. I think I called it Getting Schooled by John Mayer. And I thought the tone on that was unreal. That was just the Fender Twin Tonemaster cranked. I listen to that now. I'm like, whoo, it's pretty good. I bought the NUX MG30 bass partly on your review and using it mostly at home. And being a beginner, it's good to experiment and learn a lot about various amps, etc. Hey, thanks for that, George. I appreciate that, mate. You know what? I can't remember what that amp is. I've got a rough, is it like black and with a silver grill? Oh, yeah, sorry, it's not even an amp. Far out. All right, there you go. That's a great little studio tool. Very cool, man. Yeah, that's the thing. Any of those digital things are like great home. You know, for playing at home, they're great because you've got headphones, you can run them to a sound card or USB them in and do all that kind of fancy stuff. When I said earlier, stay away from them, I'm talking about from a live player's experience. They're not sometimes the most functional live, piece of gear when you compare them up against something like just an analog effect with the tangible controls. But those are great. Very cool. I can't remember half the model numbers off the top of my head anymore. It's too much swimming around in there. But hey, thanks for the kind words too. Fat says, I sometimes get used Japanese guitars here in Japan that I can sell for a good price overseas, such as Edwards or Orville. Oh, there you go. Yeah, very cool. We get so many of them in Australia. Like, they're everywhere. You go to a buy, swap, and sell guitar shop here, they're all over the place. Yeah, very cool. Hey, Todd Flowers is here. Welcome, mate. Sorry if I didn't say hi before. I can't remember if I did or not, but I've just seen your name pop up. Welcome, welcome. I got an SX Guitars after watching your videos. Thanks, Shane. Hey, thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. Great little guitars, like good value, great feel, which is sometimes the thing that gets missing from guitars that are more affordable. And the pickups are great. After I bought those, a few friends of mine bought those exact guitars, and they sound fine. So very cool. Put your volume pedal right after your drive. Shane was talking about boost rather than a volume pedal. Honest mistake. So boost, technically, treble booster, volume pedal, they're all kind of similar. So you can run them on either side. There's no right or wrong with that. Again, if they're after your main overdrive in your signal chain, it'll take that and just make it louder. Treble booster will, or any type of frequency booster, will change the tone if it's that sort of pedal, but you can run those either side. So yeah, experiment around. GW Taylor says, hey Shane, do you run your pedals in line or do you run them through any effects loop? So are there any pros and cons or advantages? Mostly anytime I'm using my Fender amp, all my effects are just going straight into the front end. I don't want to have to remember to bring 2 extra cables to run other stuff out into the effects loop. I want a pedal board that I can plonk on the ground and get a great sound out of, and that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Effects loops are better if you plan on using delays. It tends to give it a sense of niceness. So, for example, when I'm playing the Marshall, I don't need overdrives, I don't need overdrives or distortion pedals. I don't use distortion anyway, but just for the sake of the conversation, the best thing about the Marshall is the effects loop, or one of the great things. I love putting the delay pedals through there, and it really sounds great, and I can turn them on and off just by using the foot switch of the amp. So I might have a wah pedal and a delay pedal on top of my amp, so 2 separate signal chains, just a wah going into the front end, and then a delay going through the effects loop, and it gives me great tone. It really does, and I love that about effects loops. Sometimes having 2 separate signal chains can give you a better overall sound with modulation effects as well, but I really like what they do in combination with my overdrive pedals going into the front end. There's not enough of an advantage for me to use the effects loop for all of that stuff. I don't hear enough of an advantage, especially if it's loud. It doesn't often matter. So yeah, there's a lot of like tone purists that go, oh, you got to have these cables, and these effects always have to go into, they'll use all these different cable methods, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it's almost unnecessary once you turn up and you're at a gig. Just whatever the easiest thing is that takes the least amount of complication out of your signal chain is the easiest way that I prefer to work. So pedal board goes down, 1 cable either side, good to go once I put the power supply in. Again, this is all personal choice. There's no right or wrong. I'm a big fan of convenience. I'm just going to have a quick drink. Don't judge me. It's getting late. I've got some caffeine. All right. In contrast to lugging 212 heavy beasts, I've gigged with my Blackstar 10-watt modeler amp running through the house. Far out, that's awesome. Gave me effects without irritating the sound guy. Yeah, that's really good. Nothing wrong with doing that. If your amp can support that, it's great. I did a few gigs with the old Mustang version 3 where I couldn't be loud. So we ran the XLR out of the amp, and that's how the sound hit the front of the house. It works. What can I tell you? And that's great to hear. Well done. What's my favorite current amp for small gigs? Do you still rock your PV Bandit Red Stripes? So I haven't had a PV Bandit now for years, but the weird thing about me is I've bought and sold 3 of them because I'm an idiot. They're great amps. But no, so no PVs are in the house anymore. Not that might not change. That could change at some point, I should say, but as of right now, I don't have one. My favorite small amp, without question, is the Artist Tweed Tone 20. It rocks, and 4 of my other good friends have them, so they've got to be fairly decent. I'm a big fan of those amps. I think they've gone up in price since they first came out, but they're still at least half the price of a Blues Junior, at least here in Australia. Artist Guitars also have a US website. I'll link it down once I timestamp this in the description, and you can have a look at those. Those are really good. I also like other small amps as well. I have Princetons, but I don't necessarily go out and play them, and sometimes they just don't have enough oomph. Like, they're great sounding amps, but they're just not loud enough sometimes. There's a few that I love like that, but yeah, the Artist Tweed Tone, all these years later, it's still going strong. Same valves. I've tried replacing the speaker in that with various speakers. I keep going back to the 7080. It's crazy, but it just sounds great. What Lefty guitar company that really surprised you and why? PRS, when they stopped making them. Nah, look, I think the ones that have really stood out in recent memory, Kiesel, I had no expectations to really, like, I didn't know what I was going to think of that guitar, and it's so good. It outplays all of my Fender guitars. It's not even close. It sounds great, good pickups, got the Johnny Highland pickups. It's kind of like a Telecaster, kind of like a Strat, 3 pickups, unreal. Vola is another one that's really worth checking out as well. You'll see them pop up on YouTube, but they still don't have the big following like, you know, your mainstream big 3. If you post a Fender video or an Epiphone video or a Squier video, generally gets hits, right? Yeah, but with the Vola stuff, those are killer. Like Dr. Rick's got one. He's got one with a roasted maple neck. It's one of the best Strats I've ever seen. It really is. And they obviously make Lefties as well now. But yeah, there's so much good stuff. You know, Tom Anderson. I got to play Tom Anderson guitar. And that'll be probably the next video, I think, going up from the Jerry session. Thing sounds unreal. Eastman guitars completely shocked me. I had no expectation of them being any good. It's like better than my VOS custom shop, or as good as that. It's like half the price and it's handmade. It's so good. It's expensive still, but compared with like a Gibson custom shop guitar, it's not even close. But it's very comparable in every other way, like tone and feel. And yeah, there's a lot of good guitars out there, man. Like there really is. And I didn't really play anything that I didn't enjoy. You know, there's a couple of guitars I've played that weren't for me, like the Dan Electro guitars. I think they're okay, but I don't love the feel of them, and I don't really know who they're for. They've got a really sort of bland user experience, but a really unique sound. So it's kind of like, what do you do with that? They're sort of very different in their visual sort of vibe as well. But I got to play some stuff from Sir. Yeah, as I mentioned, Tom Anderson. Another guitar that completely shocked me was Taya. I'd played them before on the channel like 4 years ago. I'd played one, I think. This thing is so good. It's unbelievable. You get like 16 different sounds out of it, and it's easy to do it. It's not a fiddly sort of guitar. So I know it sounds kind of counteractive or whatever, but it really, there's so much good stuff out there, and it's fun to play all kinds of guitars at all different prices and just be shocked. Yeah, so I don't know. It's a long answer. Hey Shane, I saw your Marshall MG30 video. Great amp, by the way. Sorry, where you said the sound really bloomed and got bigger with pedals. Would the amp hold its own in a jam room with drums in a hard rock style? It did for us. It was friggin' loud. So when I did a video, if you type in keys to the guitar shop, you'll see a photo of that amp on one of the thumbnails, and it'll be timestamped. Even if it's 20 minutes, you can skip to that section. That amp was so good. It was unreal. It completely surprised me. I also did a review video here at home afterwards because I was like, how do people not talk about how great this little amp is? So turn off all the distortion on the amp and all that kind of stuff. That clean solid state channel on there is unreal. It is a great sounding, just really functional amp. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Fast Eddie says, I must be getting tired. What time is it? Nearly 10:30. Oh, sorry, the chat moved. Am I taking any lessons? I'm not, no. I haven't been practicing as much as I would like, I gotta be honest. I played a lot when I was overseas, and that got my chops to a point where I was flying again. It really did. Like when you record videos and you're trying to like play an intro part, rhythm and lead, and get your playing all sorted out for video and, you know, to send out to the world, I try to get it to a standard. Even if it's simple, I have to make sure my timing and execution's good and the feel is there. So I was really into it. And the more I do that, the better I play. And then having all of that time off from that hasn't been as as functional for my playing as I would like. So I'm going to have to get back into it. But I don't really do like conventional lessons. I'll just pick stuff I want to learn and go through it that way. I find that to be far more motivating to want to learn. Hey, we got a super chat here from Dethraco, is it? Is that how you say that? Apologies if it's not. Appreciate your channel. Great information from a genuine guy. Hey, thanks, man. I like your little avatar there. It looks like you're in a warm part of the world. You're going surfing, I think. Is that surfing or water skiing? Yeah, it's surfing. Very cool. Hey, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. John says, Dr. Rick posted a couple of videos today on Instagram and Facebook. He looks well. Yeah, I'm not on Facebook personally, so my page is up, but I hardly use it. But yeah, I saw him on Instagram. Man, Rick's great. He's got the gift. I don't know if anyone knows this. If you don't know who Dr. Rick is, he's been on the channel since like 2008 or 10 or something like that. He's been on for a long time. He can hear stuff and play it. He's got such a great ear. You know, it's really impressive to watch him hear a theme song out of something and play it for the first time a minute after listening to it. It's pretty cool. Rick's one of the masters. He really is. Yeah. I'm going to have him back on the channel too. We've been chatting a lot. We just haven't had a chance to really like tee anything up. So everyone's wondering like, where's Rick been? He's just been busy. And I've been busy too. So we'll make it happen coming up. Dougal Dog. Oh, well, I kind of answered just that a bit there. So he says, "G'day, Shay. Nice to see you again. How's Dr. Rick going?" He's doing well. He's keeping busy. He's been playing like a monster. If you don't know Rick stuff, just type in Dr. Rick on, or RSELP on Instagram and it'll come up. David says, both you and Phillip McKnight gave similar comments on Kiesel. Yeah, I mean, look, I used to be a real bad fanboy for certain stuff. And then when I realized like how great this other stuff is, it's completely changed my perspective on guitars. I don't even care if it's an expensive brand or just something different. But Kiesel are making like lighter, better versions of some of my favorite style of guitars ever. And the tone is unreal. It's got a real 3D sound. Every time I play my Johnny Highland back here, actually, you know what? I don't know if it's in here. I think my Strat might be in here. Oh no, it's in here. There we go. Cool. Nearly every time I play this thing, and it looks amazing, right? This is like a custom shop guitar. We've got the roasted maple neck, locking tuners. You know, it's got the modern appointments, which I actually prefer now. You know, I've been a diehard Tele guy for a long time. There's nothing wrong with modern appointments on an electric. And I mean, these pickups, I actually got a really, you know, I watched Johnny Highland's live stream on Mike Palmisano's channel a while back. And I just commented a super chat. I said, love the new pickups, Johnny. Best. I've had all of his pickups. I'm like, these are the best ones yet. Even though I didn't actually buy these, they were already in the guitar. And he's like, oh man, thank you so much. And you know, it's a great guitar. It's got the cutaway here. It plays great. Tuning stability is good. The tremolo is great. You know, not everyone's going to like a brand because of this or that, or I'm just going to focus because my face is in the shot. Is it going to do it? Come on, Sony. Anyway, but yeah, this is a great guitar and just one of the most playable things I've had a chance to play. You know, I think what also makes it feel good is it doesn't feel like a mass-produced instrument. It doesn't have that super high-gloss body, the super high-gloss neck. You know, the stuff you'd find on every other guitar. It has a real, like, hands-on feel. Like someone's actually done something to it without a CNC machine. Even though that might be part of the process, it has a real handmade feel to it. So it's a very different instrument. It's definitely one of my favorites. Do I like Schecter guitars? I really do. Unfortunately, I've just had no chance to showcase them. I had planned on doing it. Schecter have, I think, 22 left-handed guitars, or they did a year and a half ago. And right before I was going to organize it and go pick some up and do some reviews, we had all those problems where all the businesses closed and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I never followed it up a year later. I think they're unreal. I don't like all their pointy ones for me personally, but the build quality of the guitars is really, really quite great. I've showcased them before on like Guitar Search Saturday videos, but never as like, I've just not found lefties that I've been able to shoot reviews for, but that may change coming up. Dougal says, ever thought of moving to the US? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. Interestingly enough, it's become way more expensive than it was the time before. Like, it was drastically different as well. So, I don't know. I'd like to have a place there where I could spend a good chunk of time, come back, spend a good chunk of time. But, that'd be the dream, something like that. David says that Tele is amazing. It's really good. There's nothing in my current lineup that's exactly like that. It's a 3 pickup. The reason why, like, when Brandon from Kiesel reached out and he said, "Hey, do you want a guitar built for you?" I was like, "Are you serious? Don't you do like shreddy guitars? Have you even seen like?" I said, "Thanks, I'm flattered, but I'm not a shredder." And they go, "No, we've got all this other stuff, Johnny Highlands and blah blah blah." He goes, "What would you like ideally?" So I gave him a whole bunch of stuff that I'd really love, and that's what that guitar is. It's super cool. That color is that guitar is the right color for a black and white stream. Yeah, absolutely. I can't put it on color. I can see like I can see how red my face is on the selfie screen here. It's just terrible. Mark, welcome, mate. Hope you're doing well from Daytona. There you go. Right around from Ormond Beach there. Very cool. Yeah, it's a great. I actually have some video footage right from the beach on Daytona. That was one of the first places I got to see when I was 19 years old all those years ago. I was 18 actually. I turned 19 not long after that. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time in that part of the world. It's pretty cool. It was great fun walking along the beach there again as well. Just when we had some time to do that, it was beautiful. I love high gloss. There's nothing wrong with high gloss guitars, but what I'm saying is, like, sometimes the different stuff is the cool stuff, it really is. And high gloss guitars look beautiful. There's no question about it, but I'd rather that the way that it looks now than just being another Fender style finish, the high gloss nitro. It's just, it is what it is. More than a belly cut, I like guitars with arm contours or bevels. Well, there you go. Yeah, I've kind of like changed my appreciation for. I used to just love the boring old slab of wood Telecaster style shape, and I've always loved a Strat. The Strats are clearly the more comfortable guitar, but there's modern Teles. There's a lot to like about them. Shane, can I ask if you've ever tried a high-end Resonator, a National tricone, etc.? You know what? I haven't tried a National before. I've never seen a left-handed one of those anywhere. I think Jerry's Lefty Guitars had a couple, but they may have been set up for slide. I think I remember the action being like really high. You actually said a couple of them are set up like that. So, you know what? I don't know if I've actually ever played one. I've seen a couple of like lesser expensive ones, but never reviewed them. But yeah, great sound, man. I think the Nationals, everyone knows them from the cover of the Dire Straits album. That's the first thing I think of. It's just, they got a great sound for all kinds of music. Well, for rootsy kind of stuff, I would say. But yeah, obviously you can also write love ballads with them as well if you're Mark Knopfler. Loving my double hot cake from New Zealand. Man, my friend's got one of the old single versions of that pedal, and it's great. So yeah, I forgot they were made in New Zealand. Yeah, there you go. Did you get to attend or play in any jam sessions on the road trip? I didn't. No. There's a couple of reasons why. One, it was hot, and two, I didn't actually have a guitar, and I didn't want to buy one just for the sake of going to jams. We already had enough stuff with us, and I could have probably have borrowed one from Jerry's, but yeah, I run the risk if something goes wrong or the car gets stolen, then I've lost the guitar, and then it's a nightmare, right? So it was kind of like, no. And we focused mostly on getting lots of Lefty guitar videos done, which we did. So there's 20 of those. There's some interviews, and there's some of the best guitar shops you're going to find anywhere in the world coming up, and some really just unique and cool ones as well. So that was the majority of like the filming side of it. There's plenty of like little bits and pieces I might put together at the end that were sort of like before or after or between the shops as well. So, but yeah, I would have loved to have played. But those kind of trips are more suited to just doing that. You know, I was going to try and fit in a few live playing parts, but unfortunately, it's just too much to do. And a lot of driving too. Fat says, do I like Florida or Australian beaches better? They're both nice. I think Australian beaches are generally more beautiful and they're more pristine, unless you're, you know, in the inner city suburbs. But they're pretty hard to beat visually in Australia. But the Florida beaches are great because they've got their own. There's things that are convenient right near them, which makes it pretty handy. Some of them are beautiful. Some of them you can drive on, which is kind of funny. But it is what it is. And the water's generally a whole lot warmer. So, yeah, we both got... I mean, look, the water can be warm in Queensland too, but it was 28 degrees Celsius in one of the places we were swimming. It was like, what? It's just insane. So I like them both, but they're both very different. Hey, Craig, thank you, man. A beverage of your choice on me. He says, I'm sitting noodling on a blue Lefty Revstar Standard, and it's your fault. Hey, thanks, mate. Great guitar. I don't know if you caught the start of the stream. I was sort of raving about those. Someone asked about it, and great guitar. So, yeah. The blue Lefty. What do they call that again with the stripe? It's got a Swift blue. Is that what it's called? They're great, man. I was just saying earlier, I rewatched a couple of those videos recently as I was replying to comments. I'm like, far out, they sound good. And they're at a decent price, too, for what you're buying. I think, like, there's not a lot around it price-wise, other than a few Gretsch guitars that are, like, equally as good. Like, yeah, I would have no hesitations recommending those. All right, thanks again, Craig. I appreciate the super chat. I'll have one of these to keep me going here. All right, we might wrap this up soon because I want to timestamp as much stuff as I can before I go to bed. But yeah, someone just said Australian beaches. Greg, yeah, Australian beaches are beautiful. It's a different thing. I mean, we've got the coastline here is pretty hard to beat. It's all around the country and all around Tasmania. So there's a lot of different beaches. The beaches in Tasmania, although cold sometimes of the year, are beautiful. You know, I've seen a lot of Australia. A lot of people probably think I haven't. Been all the way pretty much up the coast of the Western Australian coastline. Biggest state in the world. Been all the way from Perth to Exmouth, which is a good portion of the way up. I've been pretty much from Melbourne to Sydney to Brisbane to Cairns, and then further up to the Great Barrier Reef in Port Douglas. And it's all nice. And pretty much all the coastline in Vic. I used to surf a lot too, and do a lot of snorkeling and underwater photography. And that's something I'd love to do more of coming up as well. I'd love to do that again. Now that we've got GoPros and all that stuff, I would have killed for those as a kid, man. But yeah, I'd love to do more of that kind of thing. It's really cool. But yeah, the coastline here is epic. But there's so many beautiful places everywhere you go, right? But yeah, Florida's a bit more convenient based on, like, if you just need to go to the shops. The shops always are right across the road, and that's not for everybody either. But yeah, it's got its pros and cons, I guess. But the Cape Canaveral area is really beautiful. Down there's nice. Naples is really cool. Sarasota and Siesta Keys really nice. In Florida, it's beautiful. All right. Hey, thank you, Bruce. Cheers, man. Good morning. Just drinking some morning coffee and working while listening. I appreciate that, Bruce. Thanks, man. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon. So thanks, everybody, for being a part of it. Thanks for the super chat, Bruce. I appreciate it. And Craig as well. And we also got one from Thrako. Hopefully that's how I pronounce that. Thank you again. If I've missed your question, quickly repost it and just add in the blues me at the start. And I'll get onto it. Oh, man, I hate drinking this stuff on the live stream. I need it to keep going, but at the same time, I don't need it to keep going, but it just gives you the burps. All right. I was thinking about going over to Adelaide this week to catch it. Sorry, man. Sorry, John. I might have missed the... Oh, here we go. He says Adelaide is having their guitar festival at the moment. I was like, catch what at the moment? Yeah. Well, that's cool. Hopefully it's good. We haven't had the Melbourne one forever. If it's on this year, I'll try and get down there. Hey, Shane, question for you. As a lefty, Epiphone or Gibson if the buyer is 3K? I don't know what the question is. Sorry, mate. Are you asking... Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Sorry. Maybe just rephrase that one. David, take it easy, man. I appreciate that. Dougal says, G'day, Shane. I appreciate your vids overseas. Playing with backing tracks, that must have taken some arranging. Was it all done in pre or post shooting? It was all done on the day. So I shot 5 videos a day. Every day I was there, at least. And it was all done via the magic of live switching. So I had a live switcher, 3 cameras. It was a nightmare to set up, but it was great. Rhiannon did a great job switching between the camera views and all that kind of stuff for me. And, you know, I had to overdub a few of the first few videos with my voice because the audio was glitchy, like really bad. So it was real distorted. I think one of the cables was a bit funky or something. So I had to go back and sort of fix that in editing. But everything else was done on the day. So I'd literally pick a guitar up off the wall, one I want to play. I'm like, this looks pretty good. Tune it up, record the backing track, do the demo, next. I did that every day. But it was yeah. I thought you can't go back to not having jam tracks on a review because just you can, and it's real easy not to do it. But I like having those in the videos. It's a good challenge for me to just to sort of... Oh, is my camera? What's it doing? Oh, yeah, it's okay. It's a good chance for me to sort of come up with something. And that's the best fun about the videos is doing the jam for me. So thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a big job. A lot of stuff in the bag. But it was... it was definitely a good move to bring everything. You know, it's funny because Jerry, the guy who runs the shop, he was the guy I blame for getting me into camera equipment. Right as I got there, he bought a new camera and I was like, man, I didn't have to bring this much stuff. So I could have just borrowed 2 of his cameras and had 1 of mine and I would have been fine. But it was good to have some stuff I was familiar with, especially when it came to the Guitar Search Saturdays. It requires like certain things to make them look great and certain lenses and all that kind of stuff. All right, let me just... Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. Let me just see if... Thank you. Was it John that fixed that? Appreciate it. It's always good to get some spam in the chat. It doesn't happen that often, so... Anyway. All right. How about Novo guitars out of Nashville? They look and sound killer. Thanks for the live chat. You know what? Never heard of them. Novo heard of them. But I'm sure they're great. There's so many great guitars now. It's hard to find crap. This is the great thing about the internet. It's made... Anytime someone releases something, if it's crap, you're going to... you'd hope you'd hear about it. And it's forced companies to be more accountable with what they're releasing. Unless, of course, you're buying from like a supermarket or something, right? It doesn't really matter. But if you're buying a guitar of any description and the internet exists, there's going to be reviews and critiques and pros and cons and all that kind of stuff. And it's made companies make even less expensive guitars far better than they would have before the internet or before all of the, the content stuff went up. So... yeah, that's super cool. I'll check them out. I don't know about them. Hey, Shane, after a 5 to 10 watt American amp, Blackstar Studio 10 6L6 or a 68 Vibro champ. Look, this just comes down to what you really like. I mean, the Blackstar is probably going to have more tonal options, right? You'll have a drive channel. You may have other effects built into it as well. And a clean tone. I kind of prefer the Fender amps generally. Like the small Fender amps are more up my alley, but there's no right or wrong. You just got to pick the one that works best for you. Have a listen to as much stuff as you can with the kind of style of music you'll be playing. and then pick it based on that. If you're playing straight up blues kind of stuff, I'd probably say the Fender would probably give you a better sound for that kind of stuff, but you get great tones out of anything. So yeah, I don't know enough about the Blackstar amps to really comment on that one, or that one in particular. So yeah, I haven't heard or really used too many of them over the years. Just a couple of, I heard them a couple of times in the context of the live mix. I also reviewed a couple of their old, this was like, I don't know, 12 years ago or something. I think I did one that had two 10-inch speakers, and that Blackstar was rocking. So with the exception of that, I can't really remember too many that I've played. But yeah, just try to find what works for this sort of style of music you'll be playing. If you want to rock it up, the Blackstar might be the better choice. Did you make it to Replay Guitar Exchange in Tampa? We went to a lot of shops. This one we did not. Sorry, yeah, I'm just having a look now. I don't want to give away too many of the ones that are coming up, but that one we didn't go to, unfortunately. It wasn't through lack of trying, right? I contacted a lot of stores, and the ones that kind of understood what we were doing, and the ones that replied were into it, and the others I never heard from. And that's totally fine too, so yeah. What do I think of the new PRS Custom 24 Lefties these days? Any good? They've gotten better. So my Korean one was great, like straight off the shelf. I knew as soon as I played it, got it home, I went, man, this is cool. Took it back the next day. It was just on loan, and bought it the following day. I was like, I can't live without this thing. It's great. I played the first release of the PRS SE guitars made in Indonesia, and I didn't like them. It just didn't feel like the same kind of quality guitar mine was. And this isn't a where is it made kind of thing. It's like the factory changed and then just something wasn't right. And then the second, or maybe 2 years later after that first run, or a year, I should say, sorry, after they changed, so 2 years into when they moved, so the second release of the made in Indonesia guitars, they're arguably just as good. So as good as what they were, I should say. Yeah, there was something about the finish that felt cheap on the original run. It just didn't fill me with, like, I thought the Harley Bentons were probably a way better just value guitar, the CST-24. But they're all pretty good now. Like, I haven't played one where I've gone, oh, what are they thinking? So, yeah, I know Ben tried the Santana one, which he loved. So he actually owns one of those too. Or maybe he did. I'm not too sure if he still does, but he probably still does. Actually, oh, you asked about the Lefties. So there you go. Yeah, that's my experience with them. The first lot I didn't love. The second lot were far better. I think they kind of sorted out the gremlins. If you want one of those, you might want to get one, because I heard, or at least I've seen in comments, that PRS is sort of like stopping their left-handed runs. And actually, Jerry had mentioned that as well. He used to get like 20 PRS guitars made specifically for his store. It cost him like 80 grand or something, right? And he can't get them, no matter what. They just stopped making them. So, yeah, see if you can find one if you're interested. If you can find a used Korean one, that's pretty much mine, that Tramper screen. Yeah, the spam, it's I haven't been as active in the comments as normal, but I saw and sorted out a few of those today, and it shouldn't pop up too much more. I've been smarter in how the filtering works on the channel. It should sort of help keep a lot of that stuff out. Hey, we got Choto something Taku. Welcome. He says, "Bruh, what's up? How are you?" Thanks, Shane. Yeah, the overseas videos come across well produced. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to go back to, like, yeah, I set a standard in my room for myself. It doesn't mean it's good, but it's the best I can do here at home. And I don't want to sort of like make videos somewhere else that are worse, or at least not close to the standard. Obviously, it's much easier for me to film at home. I've got reference monitors and cameras all set up, and I don't have to think about it. But the going somewhere else and doing this, we had essentially the same setup with far less gear and much smaller monitors and all that kind of stuff, and it worked. But yeah, it's you're the first person to mention earlier about I can't remember who mentioned it now, but how much work went into bringing all the stuff. I'm surprised not too many people had caught on to that. So yeah, I wanted to have at least 3 cameras. That was the goal. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Actually, I'll just take this last question here. What are your views on the Rowin purple delay pedal now? Look, Rowin make good stuff, and it's affordable. You'll find a lot of those brands now, at least in 2022, you can find the Rowin pedals branded as this pedal brand. As Donna make this. It's the same circuit as this. So they're all pretty much the same, and they all work. So, yeah, for the price you pay for the Rowin stuff and the kind of tones you get, it's a clean signal in and out. From memory, they have the little, the quality jacks on the sides as well. So you can't go too far wrong with them. So, yeah, enjoy it. And it's funny, like an inexpensive delay pedal can sound just as good as one that costs you 5 times more. It's the thing that will generally change is how it's built, where it's built, and just sometimes the more expensive ones won't have lots more options, but sometimes they will. They might have a tap tempo function on there, for example. But yeah, tap tempo is one of those things I can live without if the delay pedal's actually really good. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the live stream, please leave a thumbs up. I appreciate that. And, yeah, I'll try and timestamp this before I go to bed. And, yeah, I can't turn the black and white off, man. It's really bad. It's really bad. But you'll probably still see it on the next video that I shoot. It's going to be that bad. But hopefully by this time tomorrow night, it may have calmed down. I was supposed to go out and shoot something tomorrow. Not with a red face. It's brutal. All right, guys, take care. Thank you again for all the support on the channel. I'll try and do more live streams coming up every other week or something like that again, because it's been few and far between. I think I've done maybe 6 live streams this year, maybe less. I can't really remember, but I'll try and do some more coming up. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. Thank you. Thanks again, and stay tuned for all the Guitar Search Saturday videos. If you like the series, please, drop a comment on those videos and leave a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. It really helps, and, none of those videos are sponsored. The trip cost me a shitload. So, yeah, it would be great to, just get that series out to more people. And the way that will happen is if everybody, leaves a comment, leaves a thumbs up on it and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but for those videos, I appreciate it so much. Thank you. And guys, take care, and I'll catch you on the next video. See ya. I gotta remember how to do this. Where is it? Oh yeah. All right, we're good. See ya.